work with you through your next step, right? Your next career step. Would you tell us a little bit about yourself and I suppose what your ideal outcome of this conversation is, and what your biggest challenge is?
Mhm. So I moved to Ireland, Dublin specifically, about 4.5 years ago.
Mhm.
I was living in London previously with my now wife, who's from Ireland,
Mhm.
and we moved to Dublin, and I uh, stayed in my role that I was in while I was working in London, and worked remotely from here to there. And so for the first few years, that was great because it was a kind of frictionless move for me. I should say I was working for NTN Group, who are a global sports betting and gaming company, and I was
Mhm.
specifically working for Ladbrokes and Coral, the UK sports betting brands. And so I was working remotely there, and then my wife works in hostels, so I've been myself every day really for the last like 4 and a bit years. And for the
Mhm.
first 2 or 3 years, it was fine. It was great. As I said, it was kind of like a frictionless move for me. Um, but over time, the isolation just started to affect me a bit, and it started to affect my day to day and the energy that I had for the job. Um, Notwithstanding, I'd been there for like 7 years by this point, and I got to a point where I
Mhm.
just decided that I needed to freshen things up. I needed
Mhm.
to get a bit more energy about my job. I think a bit more
Yeah, absolutely.
enthusiasm, and also just make some human connections in
Yeah,
there.
yeah, yeah.
I do
Old
know
school
I
human
do know a
connection,
few.
right?
Yeah, I do know a few
Yeah,
people here, but
yeah.
just that day to day, like even just like the little micro interactions you have with people around an
Little
office,
coffee
I
chats
miss that.
and
Yeah,
yeah, coffee
exactly.
chats and
So
break room
I made
chats and all that sort of good stuff.
yeah, exactly. So I made the decision towards the end of last year that I needed to make a change, and so I left my job. Um,
Mm.
I left a really high performing team as well. Like it was going very well apart from my just sort of like
Okay.
day to day personal experience. Um, I purposely wanted to take a short break just to kind of recharge,
Mhm.
charge the batteries back up a bit. Nothing too long. And
Okay.
then in the last month or so, I've been kind of actively job hunting, trying to prepare my CV, and realised very quickly that having moved from the UK, I had very, very few connections, if any. And
Okay.
so breaking through, positioning myself, talking to the
That's
right
been
people has
tricky.
been a real challenge. It's been a real challenge, yeah. And
Mm-hmm.
ultimately, I want to get a job where hopefully I have the flexibility to be in an office maybe 2 or 3 days a week, and
Yeah.
something that just energizes me again, and
Yeah.
I can be enthusiastic about.
Okay, so that's great. Good on you for making the executive decision to leave a role that just wasn't working for you. That can be difficult to do, but it's great that you did it. I wonder, was that kind of the breaking point? I mean, you did 7 years. You'd had a good shift.
Mm.
You'd probably achieved a lot. Maybe just feeling a bit disconnected was the breaking point, or was that the whole thing?
There was a couple of things. So, firstly, yeah, like length of time there. For the first few years, I absolutely loved that job.
Hmm.
I couldn't believe it was my job, to be honest, for a while.
Okay.
I come from an engineering background, very
Okay.
analytical, some mathematical background, and then I took a step into the sports betting world. I love sport. I love technology. I couldn't believe it was my job.
Mm-hmm.
And so for a few years, I was really riding that wave. And then over time, just with the post-COVID world, the remote working, the isolation, just started to nibble away at me. And then in the
Mm-hmm.
last 18 months ago, the company went through a restructure, and so
Right.
there was um, a lot of people moving around, moving on. My team was retained and my role was retained, and I stayed. But the next year or so after that, um, it was it was fine. It was good. It was a sort of different world we were operating with. But I think all of these things just over time were sort of grinding away at me a little bit. And then I got to a point, as I said, that just kind of needed to make a decision to freshen things up.
Fair enough. Fair enough. So, as you look forward towards your next step, what do you feel is the biggest challenge?
I feel like making connections and sort of breaking through to speak to people who can get me in the door. I've been fortunate enough that so far I've had a couple of people who have managed to get my CV in front of hiring managers and managed to progress a couple of things.
Great.
But I feel very out of practice. Like 10 plus years ago when I was an engineer, it just seemed so much easier. Like I would, I'd have my CV, I'd put it online and recruiters would be phoning me like all the time. And it's not like that anymore. It's far more digital, obviously. And anyone who uses LinkedIn will see the counts attached to jobs and seemingly the number of applications that are going in. And so I think it's just a bit of a different world just now. And I don't know how well positioned I am to navigate it at the moment.
Yeah. So you mentioned being out of practice and how your positioning is currently. When you say out of practice with interviews, out of practice with job applications, out of practice with identifying interesting roles?
Yeah, all of the above.
Yes to all?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All of the
Yes
above,
to all.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think my
Okay.
CV just now is decent enough. In terms of the way that it's set out and the information that's on there. The lack of human interaction with someone to actually tell me, is that good or it needs to be better? I've not really had much communication that way, so I
Do you
actually
feel
don't know.
confident in it? Do you feel confident in your personal brand, your pitch, how you sell yourself and present yourself?
No.
Okay.
I think I have. Well, I do have a pretty diverse background. Um, I I think that's, I believe, is a good thing. Like I'm demonstrably adaptable. I'm very adaptable. Just through the course of my career and the changes that I've made.
And your life, right?
It's
Moving to a new country is
and
adaptability too.
yeah, absolutely. It's telling that story in a compelling way that I'm
Okay.
finding difficult.
How would you feel if you could tell that story in a compelling way?
I would feel a lot more confident.
Okay. Okay. So if we could tackle that today, would that make a measurable difference? Would that be high impact for you?
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I think I've got a lot to offer the right place, but it's telling that compelling story to open the door.
Okay. Yeah. So let's say we could focus our conversation today on helping you articulate that story. My role is to support you and help you articulate it, right? So you're not under pressure. I can ask you questions and help you flesh it out and articulate it well, and I can share my screen and we can go through the notes, right? So it's a partnership, right? You're not under any sort of pressure. But so we could do that. And if that would be high impact, that would be fantastic. But is there anything else that you think could be a higher priority than helping you tell your story, articulate your strengths, and really communicate why you're a great fit for this next organization? Is there anything else that you think could be higher priority, or are you happy with that?
I think that would be a good start.
Okay.
I sometimes find it a little bit difficult to find exactly what it is that I want, which is a pretty open thing. But I suppose we need to start somewhere. And maybe if I can get more confident about telling my own story in a compelling way, then that can allow me to, expend energy on exactly what kind of industries or what kind of roles I actually want to
Exactly.
approach.
Exactly. The way I think about this is, I think you're absolutely on the money. Is if you want to go to if you imagine your career as like you're going out for a nice meal with your other half or your friends, right? You want to go to the best restaurant you can, but you have to know what your budget is. You have to know what you've got to offer And so
Mhm.
sometimes
Yeah,
when we are, if we don't know what our skills, our strengths, our abilities, all the value we can bring, it's very hard to know, well, what is the best place I can bring that and communicate that with an employer, prospective hiring manager. So when we do know what that budget is or what your skills are, then all those other questions tend to be a lot easier to answer, because what do we want to do? We want to achieve our highest and best value and have a great time in the process, right?
yeah, yeah.
Okay. So that's great. I think we're aligned. We're on track. So I might share my screen just so you can follow along and make sure all this is resonate with you. Does that work?
Sure.
And
Yep.
this is just some notes that we're going to talk through to make sure you can articulate exactly what you want to get across. So let me just click this here, and you're gonna see this doc. Is that coming up for you?
It does. Yeah, I can
Nice.
see it.
Okay, perfect. So tell us, what are your top 3 skills?
Attention to detail.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely attention to detail. Probably to a fault.
Yeah.
I am a good listener. I actually I like listening.
Mm-hmm.
I have good patience that way.
Mm-hmm.
And
Okay, patience. Yeah, good listener. Attention to detail. Sounds like your other half is going to be happy with those skills, right? Good listening, good attention to detail.
so far, yeah. Well, I mean, she married me, so far so good.
Yeah. So far so good. But let me. So they're great, right? What we're doing at this point is we're going to do a brain dump, right? Let's get down loads of information about you and the value you bring, and then we could tighten it up and put it into a nice kind of bow, right? So
Yeah.
if I asked you, like, if someone comes to you and says, like, what are the top 2 or 3 things you do that I come to you for? The top 2 or 3 problems you solve, right? Let's say, for example, in my case, I do lots of things, right? I write emails, I update website, I do these calls, uh, but mostly I do coaching, mentoring, and then everything else I just put it into a box called business development, right? So I'm not going to tell you about these tiny things I do. Oh, I wrote on LinkedIn yesterday and stuff like that. It's unimportant. In your case, obviously, you've worked, you have a background in engineering, you've done some product management, you've built a lot of relationships. So I suppose if I don't know anything about you, I would say, well, product owning or product management is a skill, or relationship building. Do you know what I mean? Those big chunky things where
Yeah.
people would say, we
Yeah.
need someone to solve that problem. Like, how would you frame what I do A, I do B, and I do C, keeping it high level to start?
Well, I think problem solving would be one.
But what types of problems, right?
Yep. Good
So,
question.
so yeah, so getting the customers of a product and the technical people to actually understand each other is a problem that a product manager solves, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Whereas you don't
So
solve a plumbing problem, right? That's a different, it's a different guy.
yeah. So yeah. So from I suppose taking product ownership for starters, problem solving would be understanding user problems, understanding business needs, bridging those.
Mm-hmm. But do you feel that product management or product ownership is a skill that you currently have?
I think executing is more a skill that I have at the moment. So being able to almost like knowing the problem and knowing how we're going to solve it and then executing that solution, I think is probably closer to what I'm best at.
Yeah. And what is the nature of that problem? How do you frame it to somebody who just meets you?
I mean, in this, in the simplest way that I possibly can present it.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm not really too sure how to.
But executing on the problem, is that a product related problem, or is it, let's say, a problem that is in the team? Let's say they have interpersonal conflict, or is it a customer related problem where the customer is struggling to use the product, so they need to do training and you execute on the training problem? Do you see what I'm getting at?
Yeah, it would
Or not really?
it would probably be more um, it would be more like building the software, like taking the solution, the technical solution. It's been discussed with technical teams and the business and arriving at the
Hmm.
agreed solution and then going and delivering that solution.
Hmm.
Um, user problem or a user need or a business need or a business problem that we're trying to solve. But I think I'm at my strongest when the problem or like this more at the solution stage and like delivering that solution.
Yep. I get you. I get you. That makes total sense, right? And so how do you describe that? Like, what would be the skill that
It's
you would
probably
call
more
that?
delivery. It's probably more delivery and execution.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, I mean, going back to my engineering days, it would be project based. It would be project orientated rather. So it would be like project delivery.
Hmm. So any project or specifically technical projects?
It would be technical projects. Yeah. So if it was
Okay.
when I was an engineer, if it was a structural analysis on an offshore piece of infrastructure to make sure that it
Hmm.
can operate in the in the North Sea or something like somewhere like that, or um, mitigating structural problems with an aircraft wing.
Hmm.
It would be a technical project like that, and then to the present day, um, delivering software features. Um,
Yeah. Great. So technical project delivery for like, and that covers both engineering and software, right? Because you've done it for both.
yep, it would broadly cover them all, I would say.
Yeah. Yeah. For your next step, are you more focused on engineering or software?
I would say software. It's probably been it's coming up 10 years since I was in
Hmm.
engineering. So I'm not ruling it out, but and I think one day I would like to go back to engineering because I do miss it sometimes. But I do really enjoy technology, and
Okay.
it's almost like I've done the physical technology part, and
Yeah.
now
Yeah.
I get
Yeah.
to do the digital technology part. Um,
Uh-huh.
so yeah, I for the time being I would prefer to stay digital, but I haven't ruled out going back to engineering.
Yeah. Okay. Super. Super. So do you feel technical project delivery covers it, or are we missing
Most
something?
broad, most broadly, yeah, I would say so.
Okay. Okay. That's great. So if technical project delivery is one element of what you do, what are the other two or three elements? Relationship building, team management, we just say stakeholder engagement, maybe something else?
Yeah, relationship building, stakeholder management. I would place those under the same umbrella, however you
Yeah.
want to write it.
S-
I it's definitely a strong point of mine. Um,
mhm.
Relationship building in work teams and cross functionally and this kind of thing. Something that it took me a long time to realize that I was actually quite good at it. to be able to kind of admit that that was something that you were quite good at.
Why do you feel
And
you're good at it? Is it that it comes naturally to you, that you really enjoy it, that people have maybe commented on it before? Like, what? Why do you feel like, yeah, it's one of your strengths?
I think it comes fairly naturally, and I think it also comes back to my ability to listen to people, and just sort of give people space to talk and let them feel heard. I think over time that's something that I've developed and then realized kind of retrospectively or laterally rather. Yeah, I think it comes down to my ability to just give people space to discuss their problems or the requirements that they need in something, or if there's dependency on some other team or something that they're working on, and yeah, just allow conversations to happen.
And what do you feel is the outcome of allowing conversations to happen? Do people buy in more? Maybe do they get more creative and solve things, or do they just feel more part of the group? What do you think of the outcomes of providing that space in?
Yeah, all of that.
Yes to all.
Yeah, like the first one in terms of like in terms of buy-in, it's so long as everything's quite clear at the end. If there's actions and everyone has action, or the people that have actions clearly know what actions are, as long as there's like clarity at the end of it. To give you like a real example, from my previous work, my previous job, I started with a new development team about 16 months ago, and the technology base is all in India. And at the start, they were a fantastic group of developers. But at the start, there was only maybe 2 or 3 people on the daily calls who would contribute and speak. And over time, that changed to the point where, like, towards the end of last year, everyone was contributing. Everyone just felt they had a voice, and that was something that I tried to cultivate over time.
I was going to say, how did you cultivate it? What is the secret sauce?
I think consistency in the way that I approach things helps. Giving them clarity, because part of my job as a product owner, product manager, is to be able to, clearly communicate to them what it is that we're trying to build and why, and keep them like motivated in doing so. And I think consistency, just me being as consistent as I can be over time, giving them the space to, analyze, find problems, test, and over time I found that it gave them the confidence to speak, like tell me their doubts, or instead of just being quiet and getting on with something and then retrospectively coming back and saying, oh, we've got a problem with that. It just gave them a bit more confidence to challenge things up front. So like as the year went on, and I think more and more people started to sort of like get a little bit more confident in the sessions and just find their voice, there was just a little bit of a domino effect, to, like I said, to the point where towards the end of the year, most people, if not everyone, was contributing.
I love it, David. Good on you. That sounds fantastic. Isn't it interesting that you can have all these technical people doing great work, but then at the same time, maybe they get blocked because maybe they have doubts or they have concerns, or maybe their confidence takes a knock. And then if someone like you can come in and uncover or help provide space and confidence, like a HR person might call this like psychological safety, like a psychologically safe environment where people say, if I express my doubt to David, I'm going to be okay. In fact, probably he's going to reassure me, help me build my confidence. And it's like you're unlocking a door for them to play with their skills at a higher level because they don't have that anymore. So You know, it's interesting, isn't it? It's not just a case of
Yeah,
if you have the 10 best people with the 10 best skills, if they feel like they can't express themselves, and then when you can unlock that door.
yeah, yeah. And another interesting aspect of it is that we're all behind screens, and they're sitting in India behind screens.
Right.
You know, so we're not having that in-person connection either, which is a
Yeah,
challenge. Like it was undoubtedly challenging at the start when no one was talking in calls.
of
Um,
course.
so yeah, over time to be able to unlock that, as you said, was something that I was quite happy with.
Absolutely. And like think of the value there, right? Imagine if there's a team that's only performing at a fraction of its ability because they've got doubt, because they don't have the psychological safety. And then if you can unlock that, you can get them performing at their best consistently. Think of all the extra value you get from there. I don't know. Do you
Yeah,
think about that often? I mean, that really strikes me.
yeah, and I must say as well, it's me working in tandem with like a tech lead. If we're talking about development teams, working with a tech
Hmm.
lead and maybe a scrum master and an agile lead as well, and us being able to identify maybe things with the team that can be unblocked or can be changed, or um, can we get our estimates done 2 weeks before a certain time, instead of a week
Hmm.
before, just like little things, just trying little things and working together with them as well to kind of set the conditions to allow people to um, have confidence in their own voice and speak up, and confidence in their own work as well. Um,
Yeah.
because for some of the people that I was working with, sports betting um, wasn't something that was kind of natural for them to be working
Hmm.
on. Wouldn't always sort of understand. Um, I think in the UK and
Right.
Ireland, many people just like they might not be gamblers, but they know sports betting. They know it exists. They kind of know what it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whereas
Yeah.
whereas quite a few of the people I was working with day to day didn't necessarily have that. So um, yeah, I think it was just
Yeah.
quite important to be able to give them the space and the confidence to speak up.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they get more confidence, they get more clarity. They maybe they feel more comfortable asking questions that would
Yeah,
a lot of people worry about asking a stupid question, and allowing them the confidence to be able to ask that,
yeah,
and then feel part of the team is super important. As you're speaking, David, I don't know if you can see, but I'm frantically writing at the side to try capture all this good stuff that you're talking about.
yeah,
So this is why we have the notes, is so that you can kind of help check this to make sure that I'm capturing it in the way that you like and you feel this represents you. So ability to build strong relationships, listen to various perspectives, and provide space for teams to solve problems. We could put
yeah,
in like technical
yeah.
problems there, for example. Just to give it a different a different sense. Consistently communicating with teams, giving them confidence to outline their doubts and find their voices. Collaborating with a tech lead and scrum master to identify opportunities to grow the team's skills and improve processes.
Hmm. Yep.
How does all that sound?
Yeah, it sounds familiar from the last few years of my general day to day.
Hmm.
Um, so I suppose in a way it's good to say these things out loud and have it kind of reflected back at me.
Yeah. Do you feel this represents you accurately so far, or would you make any tweaks?
I would say so. I would say so. The
Yeah.
only one thing I would add, and I don't know if this is actually appropriate for these notes, um, but another thing that I feel like I'm at my best with, if we're talking about problem solving,
Hmm.
is having the time and the space to get really deep into a problem. So
Hmm.
I I don't work at my best um, if I'm sort of, let's just say you have days where just back to back calls, like back to back to back to back.
Hmm.
If that was to be my norm,
Hmm.
um, I'm not at my best. I'm at my best when I get some time to really really dig deep into a
Yeah.
problem, because And I think, again, this is just the engineer in me. I want to know how things work, and I want to be able to explain it to people. I'm going to be explaining things to people with different perspectives. Like, it might be people in the commercial or business teams, or it might be developers, or it might be other product managers or other product teams. So I like to know what I'm talking about on a very kind of like base level, and for me to be able to do that, I need the time and the space to dig into something. Otherwise, I find that I'm just doing everyone a disservice.
Yeah, absolutely. So I can definitely hear the engineer coming out in you. You want to like go deep into it. You want to break it apart. You want to look at the inside, the outside, turn it upside down, right? You want to know it from every single angle and know how it works, understand the mechanics of it, whether it's software or hardware, right? So I suppose, like, is that kind of speaking to maybe, is it, I don't know, is it research that you do? Is it analysis? Is it data analysis? Is it, how do you describe that kind of digging into the problem? What are you doing there?
Yeah. So in the product world, it would be it could be data analysis. It could be simply like, how do these systems work together? How do they talk to each other? And how can I simplify it to the point of I can easily talk to someone in the commercial team about it. I can talk to an architect about it, a systems architect. Or it could be putting some kind of set of slides together, as a sort of source of truth for a problem that we're solving, the technical solution, the outcomes that we're trying to achieve. If I can kind of get, I guess some people call it like flow state. I'm not someone who's sort of like kind of went into that too much, or like, you know what I mean? But I think that's what it is, where I just get, a good few hours or something like that to just get lost in something. And then I'll come out the other side, and I'll either, like I said, have a set of slides or something. I'll have done a document. I'll have worked out how to describe certain things to certain people. I'll have dug into some data and found some insights.
Right. So I wonder, like, is your outcome of all that work? Are you trying to identify the root cause of a particular problem, or are you trying to craft a solution or come up with a plan for delivering the solution? Or is it kind of, maybe it's an element of all that? You want to identify the root cause, come up with a one or two or three different angles, or how do you think about that?
Yeah, it could be all of that. It could be working through logic. A user journey through the site, the logic of introducing something new. Going back to when I was an engineer, if I was researching, I was in a research team briefly for a company called FMC Technologies, and we were researching new designs of subsea wellhead infrastructure, and so we were researching various like dimensions of new components, and so it could be analyzing the performance of 3 or 4 theoretical designs, running it through modeling it computationally. So a bit of research, a bit of like logic. I probably diverged from your prompt there rather than sort of converged on.
That's okay. This is the free thinking session, right? We can, it's brainstorm first or brain dump first and edit second, right? You don't want to edit when you're brainstorming, right? So that's okay, right? It's just about getting it all out there. So I suppose what I'm trying to do is, like, if we're thinking about articulating your strengths, and the value you can bring to an organization. If we take an angle on it, like let's say product management or product owning, or if you wanted to go engineering, so it's good to like if we do both, it gets confusing, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Whereas if we do one, then we can talk about, let's say, your strength in terms of product management, for example, or engineering, right? I'll just give this one. Otherwise, I'm chopping and changing across both the whole time. It's good to give the strengths with that, the interpersonal skills with that, the responsibilities, the achievements, everything comes through that lens or that filter. So then we create this holistic, comprehensive brand that you're bringing to the table. So, for example, if you say, well, I look at the root cause of problems and I try to come up with logic and I review data, and then craft the potential solution I can present to internal stakeholders. All that's fantastic, right? But if we put a lens on it of, let's say, we could talk about a user experience problem and reviewing the data around that. Now it starts to look like you've got a brand a little bit more. Does that make sense to you, or do you think I'm
Yeah.
losing it?
No, and it kind of speaks to, I think, what I said at the start, where I have a diverse background, and I struggle sometimes to just present
Yeah.
articulate my skills and what I can bring
That's okay.
succinctly.
That's okay. You come to the right place. But it's the
Yeah.
difference between saying to your wife, "I'm going to take you to a restaurant that has diverse food of the world," and she says, "Well, I thought we were going to go to the specialist, the number one Italian or the number one Indian or the number one, whatever your favorite food is restaurant." So it's like if we say we're doing lots of things, are we doing anything really, really well, right? So it's just a case of like saying, well, this is what I do, and framing everything through that. So I suppose if we review this again, and this is why I'm asking you tons of questions, because I want to get it in a way that's like that makes sense for you, that resonates with you. So if we're thinking about this, analyzing complex problems through reviewing data and modeling potential solutions to improve user experience, right? That's a rough first draft. Now, I just put in user experience at the end. You didn't actually say that, very directly. You said it in a roundabout way, which is fine. But could I ask you, are you happy with that user experience, or how would you tweak this to either add more or less or different?
Yeah. I think that's pretty succinct. I think that's because we could start talking with talking with like tech leads and architects and but I think broadly speaking that captures it.
That's on the money. Okay. Could we say analyzing complex user problems, user journey problems, user experience problems, or platform problems, technical problems?
It could be either of those. It could be platform problems or user problems. I mean, feel free to put in both if you like.
So just to kind of give you the sense, right? Because I want you to come away from this session thinking like, okay, I might tweak what we've done today, but I get the flow, I get the idea of how this works. Do you know what I mean? Because for each role you go for, you're going to want to tweak this a little bit so it resonates with that role. But for example, I would say analyzing complex user journey problems or user journey issues through identifying the root cause, reviewing data, and modeling potential solutions to improve the, I might just say, the overall user experience. What do you think?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that reads well.
Think that works. So just I'll get you to pause for a moment, and we'll just zoom out of, because we're zoomed all the way in, and just zoom out. Do you find this exercise useful?
It is, yeah. Like I said earlier, it's quite good to say these things out loud to someone who this is their world and reflect it back to me. It's something that I've not had, so it's useful.
Okay, that's great. I'm always trying to find the most useful thing, because if it's not useful, let's go on, let's do something else. But if it is useful, let's keep going. So we've got these kind of skills that are these kind of key points, right? These highlights so far that we've built out. I just want to circle back to one. We talked about technical project delivery, stakeholder management, but then later on you mentioned product owning and product managing. Would you leave that in there, or is it already the same as technical project delivery?
I think, yeah, like product ownership could probably come under that umbrella.
Okay.
I think the actual like definitions just now around the industry of like product ownership and product management can be a little bit blurry. But I think, yeah, the product ownership could come under technical project delivery.
Okay. So it's already in there with that.
It's kind of, I suppose, depending on who you're talking to, it's probably implicit. And project delivery speaks more broadly about delivering projects and whatever it is. So,
it does what it says on the tin. I get you. Okay.
Yeah.
So we've talked about teams a good bit as well. So I wonder, like, is the third skill around teams? If it's delivering the technical stuff, if it's managing all the people around it, or maybe that's all included in stakeholder management. But stakeholder management could also include customers. It could include managing up, or it could include third parties like suppliers. But I suppose if one thing is working with stakeholders, another is project delivery, is the third thing teams, or is there something else?
Good question. Yeah, like teams could well be one of them. I've always, I mean, I suppose most people have, but I've always worked in teams like my entire career, with the exception of technically the small period of time where I took a diversion into maths teaching, which I didn't pursue in the end. But even then, you're working in a department and a team of people who are trying to deliver
the maths department is a team in a way, right?
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, like I've always worked in teams. I've always been at some level or other in a team. I rose to like senior engineer, for example, where I was mentoring younger engineers. So
yeah, this is what I wanted to get to. Like, were you managing? Were you mentoring? Were you coaching? Were you training? Or yes to all?
So in my last engineering job, which I had from 2013 to 16, I think it was roughly. I rose to senior level there. I wasn't managing junior engineers as such. Probably mentoring and coaching would have been closer to it, because we tended to all, I'm going a little off piece there, but we tended to all kind of work together on project delivery. But so there was that, and then of course in my latest role for the last 7 years, when I was a product owner, I was working over the years with several development teams, and not managing them as such, but managing the product and managing the development of features and products.
Yeah. So, for example, we could say something like technical, like if you wanted to put it into a sentence, responsible for technical project delivery, stakeholder management, and collaboration with development teams.
Yeah.
Or we could talk about partnering, if you felt that was more in tune, or coaching.
Yeah, I'd probably partnering would be the closest. Yeah.
Okay. Lots of tough questions for you this evening, right?
Sweating.
How are you finding it?
It's good, yeah.
Getting you
It's
thinking, getting the hamster going.
it's forced me to dig deep. Yeah, it is. It's good though.
Right? If you dig deep on all these points, right, and you really, really clarify them, and that's why, like, every word we choose, is it coaching, is it mentoring, is it partnering, is it collaboration? Every word you choose then has meaning, and then you can expand on what that meaning is. So let's say for partnering, okay, the first step I do when I do partnering is this. The second step is this. The third step is this. The fourth step is this. Then you've clarity about what you do, the structure, step 1, 2, 3, 4 of how you do it. And then you could even say, and I can give you an example of when I've partnered successfully with a development team and why it went well. Think how robust and strong that answer is then, because you've got that total clarity over what you're getting across, what you're saying.
Yeah.
You're doing great. Keep going. Keep
Thank you.
going. I know it's quite taxing because I'm asking you 100 different questions from different angles, but you're doing really well. Responsible for how many years have you worked? Have you, how many years have you had this responsibility of, delivering technical projects, engaging stakeholders, partnering with teams?
Like 20 years.
20 years.
20 years, really. Yeah. Yeah. Right from the start, from my very first job as a stress engineer. I was my very first role was in the repair design office at BAE Systems, and that was when they still had the commercial aircraft, and
Wow.
someone would dent the side of the plane, or something like that. They would need it fixed, and they would send a damage report into our department. So we'd be on the phone with customers. We'd be managing their own expectations of getting planes back in the sky, that kind of thing, giving them, robust repairs for their aircraft and such. So right from the very start.
Wow. Okay. So tons of experience.
Yeah.
So how about that addition to the sentence, or the little preamble there? Over 20 years experience.
Yeah.
And
that that's something that I've never written down. When I'm writing CVs.
Have you ever thought about it like that? That you've been doing this for 20?
No, I haven't. I'm probably a bit guilty of kind of like compartmentalizing each part of my career and talking about them separately in that sense.
Mm-hmm.
So I never have.
Yeah. Interesting, right?
Yeah.
Right. You can feel the weight of that 20 years, right? That is deep. That is deep, robust experience. Over 20 years experience, we could say in industry X or in industry Y, but they, across various, or you could also say across various industries.
Yeah.
If you wanted to highlight, because if you look at a job description and they appreciate or value adaptability, flexibility, or diverse industry experience, that's good to add in. If they don't, then we have to make sure they don't see that as, as less significant than it really is,
Yeah.
Some people just want you to do the same thing for like 20 years and come to them and do it for another 20 years. Other people think, look, if you broaden your horizons, if you've lots of value, you've lots of different experiences to choose from, and the cross-pollination of those. Personally, I'm a big believer in cross-pollination of skills and ideas, and having stuff bumped together to get extra value. Not everyone sees it that way. So we just need to make sure we're speaking their language, right?
Mm-hmm.
Over 20 years experience across various industries with responsibility for technical project delivery, stakeholder management, and partnering. That doesn't work there. Technical partnership. No, that doesn't work, does it? With responsibility for technical project delivery, stakeholder management, and development team partnering. That doesn't work either. Could we say collaborating with development teams?
Yeah.
For technical project delivery, stakeholder management, and collaboration with development teams. Ability to build strong relationships, listen to various perspectives, and provide space for teams to solve technical problems. Consistently communicating with teams, giving them confidence to outline their doubts and find their voices. Collaborating with a tech lead and scrum master to identify opportunities to grow the team's skills and improve processes. Analyzing complex user journeys through identifying the root cause, reviewing data, and modeling potential solutions to improve the overall user experience. Also, at the start, you mentioned something that was quite commercial, I felt. Understanding, so I'm going to bring that back down here, understanding user problems and business needs. Can you dig a little bit deeper on that? What happens there? Are you doing surveys with users? Are you interviewing them one-to-one? Like, in other words, is it qualitative and quantitative data?
Yeah.
Are you
Yeah.
aligning with the strategic business needs, or is it purely revenue, or is it a technical goal that you're aligning with? Can you talk me through how you go about doing those things?
Yeah. So again, kind of all of the above. So most recently, I was working on Bet Builder product for Ladbrokes and Coral, and we had an overall business strategy with like revenue targets attached to that across a year, 3 years, and the whole product was being built out from new in-house. So the back end was new, the front end had to adopt the new back end product, and so that's fine. Like, that's one thing, but users still need to be able to find what they are that they're looking for, and drive the revenue that the business is trying to achieve. So we would partner with like a user experience team and user experience researcher, and we would interview users, and we would just get them to perform tasks on like on a beta site or on the main production site, and just get their feedback. So that's like the qualitative side of it. There's a quantitative side as well, where you've got the clicks and swipes information that's been gathered by like Google Analytics and these kind of things, and the transactional data that's held from any transactions that they make on the site. So you've got that whole kind of like melting pot of information, and it's trying to kind of like synthesize all that to work out, well, we have these strategic aims here, we have these user problems here. How do we smooth these problems out here to achieve the strategic aims over here? And to give you an engineering example, we had an operator who wanted to go and take a very old piece of offshore infrastructure to a place out near in the North Sea, near the Netherlands, I think it was. And it was a very old piece of infrastructure and had a lot of corrosion, and they wanted to be able to just go and operate with it, but they had to come to us and go through the process of having like an analysis done to make sure that it was safe to do so.
Right.
And of course, we found all this corrosion, and we were like, "Nah, you've got a big problem here."
Right.
The easiest thing, and what a lot of places would have probably done, would have been, you need to replace all this material on your infrastructure before you can take it out. That's a heavy cost penalty for the operator. So rather than that, we as a team, we knew what their problem was. We knew what their commercial aim was by operating with this infrastructure at a certain place in the in the North Sea, and we in a very highly regulated industry as well, and everything set to very, very rigorous standards and industry standards. And we managed to get the piece of infrastructure out operating without them needing to replace any members. We managed to do a very sort of rigorous analysis on the structure. Tested to within an inch of its life.
Right. Okay.
I
Okay.
managed to pass it to go and
Okay. Fantastic.
but go and drive revenue for the customer and meet their needs. And that was a very kind of like intensive problem solving
Oh, it sounds super
scenario
intensive
where we had
problem solving and very
our own,
high.
yeah,
Sorry, after you.
got you. Yeah, I thought I lost you there.
And very high risk or very high stakes, right?
Yeah, yeah. From business perspective, yeah, a lot of risk, a lot of money involved,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, if you can solve these problems, it's pretty rewarding for
Yeah,
everyone.
yeah, yeah. Yeah. Fantastic. You speak in a very humble way. It's very nice to hear. You talk about you talk about the team, you talk about all that sort of stuff, which sounds really nice. I wonder also when you're in interviews, do you also take some credit as well and talk about I and myself a little bit so they know you're the guy who solves a particular element of the problem?
Yeah, that's something that I don't think I've really learned recently in how
Right.
to present properly.
Mhm.
So when I say I'm out of practice, that's like one of the things where
Okay. Okay.
I just yeah I just maybe do tend to maybe undersell myself a bit.
Mhm. Right. Make sure to sell yourself well and fully. Take credit. You got to take credit occasionally. You can still say, we did this and my
And I
role
think
was.
you can tell from the last like 20 minutes or so that I can quite easily start going down, like I can start talking and go down a path of something and
Yeah.
it not necessarily be all that structured. And I'm
Yeah.
trying to
Yeah.
bring it
Yeah.
back around to the, the kind of main point. And
Well, we can also hear there's so much value there, right? You've got a lot to say, right? And just think about the big project that you talked about in the North Sea, just in the last few minutes. I suppose I'd be thinking, if you're going into an interview, firstly, are you going to tell the story of a project that you're super proud of that you did really well on? And secondly, I'd be thinking, are you going to make it related to the type of role you're going for? So if it's about user experience in a tech way, that's one thing, or if it's about looking after the customer in an engineering way. Um, and thirdly, I would want to know, are you going to do it towards the start of the conversation or towards the middle or towards the end? They'd be some of the considerations I'd be wondering, because what if we don't get to the end of the conversation, or if they lose concentration towards the end, then you're talking about, the biggest highlight of your career. Wouldn't that be a shame to miss that?
yeah,
Um, so a little bit of food for thought, David, right? Um,
yeah,
so I suppose we're just going to wrap up in the next few moments, but just to kind of to close it off with a bit of composure and make sure that we're ticking all the boxes. I was just trying to capture the essence of what you've been talking about, like partnering with user experience teams or user researchers, collecting research to understand. We could put in qualitative and quantitative research there as well, right? If you wanted
yeah,
to, if that was in the job description, that might be something to highlight. To understand user problems, and bridging those with technical solutions in line with the overall business strategy and revenue goals. Now,
yeah,
doesn't that sound like you're a commercially focused kind of guy?
hmm yeah, yeah,
And then attention to detail, good listener, and lots of patience, right? So that's been our conversation. All kind of uh, articulated for you. I would consider this like a really good first draft, but like something to tweak as you look at the requirements of the role. And, if they look for qualitative and quantitative research, you might tweak that. If they look for, more on user journey, then you might like add in a little bit more on that. But do you get the kind of essence of how we're going about this?
Yeah, yeah. It's as I said before, it's good to just see this like reflected back.
Yeah.
Uh, because at the moment my CV is, like as a summary, it's maybe 3 lines of trying to sound as impactful as possible, and
Yeah.
3 lines, and then just a bunch of bullet points of stuff I've done.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So it's nice to see it kind of like framed in a different way.
Very good. That's great. That's great. So let me ask you, just as we wrap up, could I ask, do you have any key takeaways? Is there anything that like maybe you heard yourself say? I know we talked about 20 years. That was something maybe you heard yourself say. Of course, you know it already, but you heard yourself say something in a different way, or maybe something else resonated with you, or a question or something that came up. Anything particularly resonate with you that you want to make sure that you hold on to after this session?
Yeah, I think looking at my career as a whole, um, 20 years 20 years is a long time, and I've done a lot. I have done a lot, and I've done a lot of um, a lot of like good technical solid work. And like I said earlier, I think I've been a little bit guilty about, because I've had this sort of diverse career, keeping this part over here,
Yeah.
this latest part is here, and kind of
Mhm.
talking about them in very kind of separate terms, whereas there's
Mhm.
actually so much that's been done over the 20 years that is common across everything that I've worked on.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, a lot of commonalities, a lot of transferable skills, and also the way of thinking. I think you've really demonstrated that
Yeah,
you're very good at understanding the logic or the mechanics behind how something works or how something breaks, and then how to craft a solution, an elegant solution that solves that. But also bringing the team in, bringing the clients in, bringing the stakeholders in. To involve them in the decision making and uncover that additional value that maybe they were too nervous to speak up before, and then you get them to
yeah,
speak, and then you can match the what the clients or what the users want with all that technical value and the understanding of the mechanics that you can bring on the other side. I mean, fantastic sort of product manager. That's the essence of what you want in your product manager, right? Or your technical delivery person,
hmm
is those
yeah,
two worlds
yeah.
colliding. So look, I think you did. I'm going to put that in as the 20. What would we say? The 20 years uh, experience, and adding lots of great value. Um, so um, thank you so much for being so open and for sharing your career and your experience. I hope people watching this will get tons of value, and they'll learn from the conversation that you've gone through, and all the different points that you wanted to articulate. Um, so I really appreciate it. If anyone else, I got to put up my little banner at the end. There's my little advertisement. If anyone else wants a free coaching session, they can apply here, and you can jump on just like David did today. But David, thanks so much. Really appreciate it, and look, best of luck with your next move. Thanks for sharing and joining today.
Thank you, Ronan. I appreciate you having me on. I really do. Thank you.
Okay, you're very welcome. Bye for now. Bye.